Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com. In wake of Jim Schlossnagle moving from Texas A&M to Texas, got a little bit more baseball talk, and of course, we got to bring the voice of college baseball here on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel. We got Kendall Rogers of D1Baseball.com. Again, the voice of college baseball, in my opinion. You're back home from Omaha, long stay up in Middle America, but now you're down back in Southeast Texas and trying to track portal and coaching and all the different
Yeah,
stuff of a sport that never really stops.
yeah, it's funny. When I was coming back from Omaha, my family came up for the championship series, and I usually fly to Omaha. Well, this time we flew out of Kansas City, so I get to the Kansas City airport, and the news drops about Jim, which I wasn't. We'll get into that in a minute, but I wasn't like crazy surprised by that by any means. But that happens, and my flight's full of A&M fans and all that, and I've got all this D1 gear on and being pointed at, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So through all of that, that day in general, just in terms of my job, was crazy surreal in just the sense of done with Omaha. I'm like, oh, I can finally take a break. And honestly, like I think been on more calls in the last 2.5 days than I was all year long. So I did send Cristo Conte a note yesterday saying, hey, I appreciate you giving me some downtime. So he gave me a thumbs up.
Oh man, well he had a lot of time when he was out by that cemetery and Snook, and
That's
my
my next
experience.
question. I tweeted at him. I said, I tweeted at him yesterday. Said, I don't know if I want to hang out with somebody at the cemetery, but I guess you do what you got to do, huh?
I wonder if anybody's ever found their way there from Chili Fest after a long night. But uh,
It makes me wonder if Chris has gone to Chili Fest incognito or something. Is what it makes me wonder.
oh
Maybe you
man,
can have him on the pod and ask him that one.
oh, he's been all over the place. But obviously here to talk about Jim Schlossnagle
Yeah,
being named
yeah.
the 14th head coach of the University of Texas baseball program.
Mhm.
One of the sixth person I think since World War One, along with Billy Dish, Bib Falk, short interwar period with Blair Cherry, Cliff Gustafson, Augie Greedo, David Pierce, and now of course Schlossnagle. So just for a second, and I think people know you went to Texas A&M, but
Sure.
you wear your D1 hat way more, almost entirely more than you ever wear your Aggie hat. But just kind of
Sure.
putting that aside for right now, the rivalry, the two teams. What's your overall reaction to Schloss, who was in the championship series of the College World Series in Omaha, heading to the Texas baseball program?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, from a college baseball perspective, it's like hitting a grand slam in the bottom of the ninth to win a championship. Like that's how big of a hire that is for Texas. It's let's be honest, it's the ultimate flex, and so for Crystal Conte, no matter what, I mean, people can talk all day long about they were buddies, like this was going to easily occur. Man, that's not an easy decision. I mean, to leave Texas A&M, a place that we can argue all day long. Oh, that program is better. This program is better. To leave A&M, a place where you would have had a top five, probably honest to God, probably a top three team preseason next year with the crowds that they had this year and things like that, new ballpark coming. That's not easy to leave. So number one, obviously it gives you an idea of how close him and Chris are. But number two, to me, it kind of takes a peek behind the curtain of what college athletics is all about now. Like I think UT, I think Jim and Chris and maybe in Hartzell might even mention it yesterday in the presser, but it's extremely important right now to be on a united front across the board because we're about to start paying every player in college baseball in particular. We're about to get to a point where we are at 28 to 30 scholarships in college baseball. I mean, remember when you and I would have discussions like, hey, can we even get to 14.7? Now they're talking about making college baseball a 29 to 30 full scholarship sport. So when you have things like that going on, you really have to be on a united front. And clearly, and trust me, I don't know Trev Alberts from the man walking down the street, but clearly Jim, based on his comments, did not seem to see eye to eye with Alberts. That was very apparent. I do think he would have probably helped his case just a little bit had he handle the press conference a little better, and B, like at the end of the day, like just come out and you be the one to announce that you're leaving, and just say, hey man, listen, Like, I love both these schools. I just want to work with my best friend. And trust me, I think people would have been mad about it, rightfully so. Like, if the same thing would have happened on the UT side, people would be mad about it. But I think people would have understood a little bit more if you kind of give a little bit of context on why you're making the decision you are. I think a lot of the stuff he said in yesterday's presser, frankly, should have been things he should have said on day one. And I think had that happened, I think this would have been a little smoother. There was not an easy pathway to this, but it would have made it just a little smoother, in my opinion. But as it pertains to Texas, the thing I like about that hire in general from a college baseball perspective is obviously Jim's a really good coach. I think he's even to me he's even a better CEO of a program. He's very organized. He does a great job of staying on top of everything. He's got his pulse on everything, whether it's transfers, legislation. He's typically the guy I talk to when I want to find out about legislation coming down the pike. So he's on the ball with those things. And then you look at his staff. Obviously Max Weiner was talked about a lot this year for the job he did with A&M staff, taking that over from Nate Yusky. Nolan Kane, I kind of call him the assistant portal king. Jay Johnson, LSU is kind of like the head coach portal king. Nolan's kind of like the assistant portal king. And then Mike Early, dating back to when he had Spencer Torkelson in Arizona State, he's a really good hitting coach. So to get the whole staff over there was pretty impressive. And I thought it was interesting to me, that Jim made the comment that, like, this isn't possible. And, I think he even said, like, I'm not sure I make this move if I don't have my whole staff with me. So I thought that was very illuminating in terms of his thinking process.
Yeah, that I asked that question, and I was very curious where he was going to take that
Yeah.
answer. And granted, for both Texas and A&M, the portal window is 30 days from earlier this week. But for a lot of these guys, they have to figure out what they're going to do with the window closing July 2nd, assessing what they need. So hitting the ground
Absolutely.
running was obviously a big consideration for bringing what is a strong staff over. But now, kind of, what do you take about the timing? And of course, playing in the championship series,
Yeah.
being 9 outs away from a national title, the first since World War II for in any men's sport for A&M, is and having that not only taken away, but the coach who got there taken
Yeah.
away and going to the rival. It's going to pour gasoline all over this. It's not like, I mean, we even
It's
posted a
beautiful, isn't
video
it?
on our channel, and we said we recorded it on Monday, after David Pierce had been
Yeah.
officially let go. We wanted to let people know we had heard about this. So what do you make of the timing that that is so controversial and has drawn a lot of vitriol from College Station for Schlossnagle as
Yeah.
a result?
Hi, guys. It's me, LC. We're going to get you back to all that insightful football knowledge real soon, but I just wanted to talk about me a second. If you know anything about me, you'll know that I am a living inside enthusiast. I really like sleeping inside. I like living inside. Knowing that my refrigerator is under a roof is really important to me. And if you're of a similar ilk and are looking to buy or sell a home in the Central Texas area, please reach out to Laura Baker. Now, Laura is a UT grad. She's an avid Longhorn fan and a member of IT, meaning she's family. She's also an elite member of the Andy Allen team with Keller Williams Realty. Buying or selling a house can be really challenging, and it's one of the biggest financial decisions that you're ever going to make in the entirety of your life. So you want to make that decision with someone who is at the top of their profession and can help you navigate the process seamlessly. Now, inventory is up for the first time in a long time in Central Texas, so it's a good time to buy. And because the market is fairly balanced, it's actually a good time to sell as well. So again, if you're like me or our friend Ian Boyd, who has recently worked with Laura Baker, and you love living inside, please give her a call today and see if you're a good fit together. Now back to the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think timing is everything. I think had A&M lost, let's say they go 1-2 in the College World Series, they don't play for the national championship again. I don't they're mad, but I don't think they're this mad, and so I don't think there was any time that would have been optimal in this situation. I do think it's important to be transparent here. I mean, Chris and I are friends, and I've known him forever. But like to come out yesterday and say, like, "Oh, we talked Monday night, and by noon the next day, we had a contract signed. It's like, just say like, hey, we reached out to intermediaries 3 weeks ago, which is, by the way, when this process started, and just say things like that. Because what happens is when you say things that can easily be counter argued, then people go, hey, like, okay, what really happened here? I don't care. Like, I'm not going to ask that question, but it's kind of the reason why you're seeing this just continuously drummed up by A&M writers, A&M fans, and things like that. So, I think at the end of the day, I think what happened in that press conference is the primary reason why we're at this spot, this inflection point where these two fan bases are colliding. Because in that situation, what you do is you come out and say, you know what, man, it's a tough loss, College World Series. This is about my kids. My kids are hurting. Like, call me tomorrow and we'll talk about this. Instead, you make the comment, and again, I think the comment was too strong. He made the comment, well, I think it was something of the effect like, this is the last job, and this is the last job I'm ever taking. This is the goal. And then it was kind of like in the second part of it, he kind of hedged that a little bit. Like, it was almost like he realized after the first part, like, wait, did I just say that? And then the second part, he's like, kind of like like the old Leroy Jenkins thing. It's like you kind of went all full Leroy Jenkins, just going all in on the reporter. And then at that point, there was no point of return. So, it's at the end of the day, there's zero doubt that I'm sure Jim wish he would have handled that a little bit differently. But it's hard to judge too much when I have not been in that position. Like, I'm trying to think of a position where, let's say I'm at Texas and my buddy's the AD at A&M, and I go, hey, like, I want to be the coach at A&M. Like, there's no easy way to do that. So, now it's full speed ahead. My take to A&M people, and I've talked to plenty of University of Texas people the last couple of days. Obviously, talked to plenty of Aggies, and my message to them has kind of been like, you can either sit back, complain, you know, bitch and moan about this, or you can go out and make a really good hire. Go out there and try to keep all your players. And by the way, if you go make a really good hire and keep all your players, you're going to be a top 10 team next year. So, like, focus on that. Quit focusing on this. We cannot turn back the clock, and you cannot get that coach back. So now it's full speed ahead. I just can't wait to see these two teams on the field next year. I'm honestly, like, I'm really glad this series next year is in Austin.
Yeah, and I would be curious if they ever. I know the SEC doesn't do this, but remember those old 2-1 conference series that they used to do?
Can we just do it for next year?
I would be in full support of that. I think another interesting aspect is, like, let's go back to just even the David Pierce hire. Just, you're plucking a coach from Tulane, in the mid-major ranks, and bringing him to Austin. Tulane and Austin are about 7 hours away. Not only are you bringing the rival head coach in, it's just an hour and a half drive from College Station. Have you ever seen anything where, Texags was there, Houston Chronicle A&M reporter was there, Bryan College Station TV was there? Have you ever seen anything like that from an introductory press conference where basically rival media is there to ask questions?
So, dude, that's a great point. And I know I'll probably get heat from A&M people for saying this and whatever. I actually give the SID department of Texas, whether it's K-Rod or Bianco or whomever, like, I actually give them a ton of credit for, like, credentialing, like, Texags and stuff to go in there and ask questions. Like, they could have easily said, hey, like, we know what you're up to. Like, we're not giving you a press pass. If you want to do media availability outside with him, you can do that. But, like, you're not going to upstage this deal. And to Olin's credit, like, he's a professional. He's not going to do that. But I actually commend him for letting those people in. But it is definitely bizarre. I'm trying to think of any situation. It's like I told some other day. It's like the football coach at LSU going to Alabama the day after the national championship game. It's like Coach K going to North Carolina the day after the Final Four. Like, it's unheard of, and that's why this thing has blown up so much, because it's the biggest college coaching story in college baseball over the last 20 years. And what's funny is, I think at the end of the day, I think if Chris is not the AD at Texas, he's probably still the coach at Texas A&M. It just gives you an idea of A, how good of a negotiator Chris is, B, how powerful his impact is on that athletic department and coaches, and C, kind of where we are as in college sports moving forward.
So kind of moving this back to the Texas side of things, why was this important to make this move? What was, I don't want to say wrong with Texas, because
Yeah.
making the tournament, making super regionals, missing
Yeah.
a pop up, going 2-and-out, those are seasons a lot of programs would be completely happy with. But Texas is different when it comes to baseball. So why was this important, considering what Texas felt to be almost lacking over the past 2 seasons?
Yeah, I kind of outlined this right after they got eliminated from the regional, and I think the biggest thing for me, and again, I've known David Pierce forever. I think he's an awesome guy, but like you also have to be honest with yourself and kind of look at the status of the Texas program. If you look over the last few years, we had Sean Allen, who was the assistant of the year in college baseball. A year later, he gets fired. You had Woody Williams leave the program after 1 year, essentially kind of pushed out. Pierce moves into the pitching role. You had Troy Tulowitzki join the staff, leave the staff because he probably wasn't very happy. Then he comes back and joins the staff in a part-time role. So, like, to me, that right there is a red flag if for a program going in the SEC, for a program to win at a high level in the SEC in baseball. You really just have to have very cohesive parts. It didn't seem like there was a cohesive part there. I think when you look at this team from a roster construction standpoint, I know the people involved with Texas One. I find it very hard to believe that there's no NIL money. What it tells me is that there's NIL money, but the evaluations, there was not a rigorous approach in the NIL department on the baseball side from a coaching perspective. And so, when you're at a place like Texas and you have NIL money in baseball, like maybe it's University of Texas in baseball, like you've got to take advantage of that. So I think that combined with the NIL side, and then the roster construction. I mean, if you look at Texas for next year, I do like some of these pieces offensively. I do like a couple of pieces pitching wise. I think the people around the program think they at least have a shot to keep LBJ. I think I'd be a little surprised based on just the way he threw in the regional. I think that probably helps him make some money in the draft. I know they're somewhat cautiously optimistic on being able to convince Jalen Flores to come back. So, if those guys come back, the team should be solid. But I don't think anybody would look at Texas pitching staff this year and go, boy, they're ready for the SEC next year. Because I can tell you this right now, and I'm just being honest with people. The staff in its current form, let's assume you lose LBJ, that staff in its current form with no additions, as you go into the SEC, I mean, they're finishing probably 8th or 9th in that league next year, if not 10th, with those arms. So I think giving that kind of three-prong, issue there, I think Texas was right to make a move here beyond the other things that Kirk wrote about.
So when you talk about the staff, and you touched on it a little bit, when you
Yeah.
look at Jim Schlossnagle, he's known for a coaching tree that's expanding. He lost to one of his proteges, another one still head coach at TCU. I mean, Elander put together
Yeah.
that offense at Tennessee that has helped the Vols to the national title. And you mentioned where these guys came from. Arizona State for Torkelson, who's with the Tigers now. Kane from LSU to replace Yeski,
Yeah.
a great assistant, and then Max Weiner, who I think he plucked from the Mariners minor league
Yeah, he's
department, right?
their minor league pitching coordinator.
So what about this staff makes it as strong as it is, and has helped the Aggies get to the point they've gotten to over the past couple of years with him there?
Yeah, what's been really interesting is I think, and it's funny when Jim got the A&M job, he reached out to me like, hey, who are some staffers you would hire? Nolan Kane was top of my list. Nate Yeski was number 2. I mean, at the time he was rolling at Oregon State. And I mentioned Mike Early to him because, Early had done a great job at Arizona State. Their issue when Tracy Smith was let go most certainly was not offense. They knocked the cover off the ball. And the one thing that I do like when you're a college baseball coach, when you're putting together a staff, is I like guys that have been around champions or have been champions themselves. If you look at Early, he's a standout player as a college player. He had superstars at Arizona State. When you look at Nolan Kane, I particularly love the fact that he not only has played for a national championship, but he's coached for a national championship. And then you look at Max and just his experience, on the pro side with some of the rising prospects in the game. That's just a really good kind of cornucopia of resumes there. And so, I just think that those guys all kind of have their own expertise. and it all kind of makes everything come together quite well.
Last thing, here we're recording this on June 27th. On Sunday into Monday, Longhorns are going to be members of the SEC, and while
How about
baseball
that?
season is not going to be until the 2025 calendar year, it's still another big step up. So what do Longhorn fans? I know they hear it all the time in football about the environments and the talent and the grind, but you could probably argue that as far as men's sports go, baseball is even more competitive than football. So what should Texas fans really be looking forward to when it comes to SEC membership as a baseball program?
Yeah, I told somebody this yesterday, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to these schools, but you're trading a home series against Kansas, Kansas State, and let's say Texas Tech for home series against LSU, A&M, and Mississippi State. You're talking about LSU with tradition, A&M, surging program, great crowds, Mississippi State, the largest ballpark in the country. So it's just different, man. And I will say this. I think it's important for UT fans to really kind of have reasonable expectations here. And what I mean by that, I'm not saying your expectation. I'm mainly talking about the regular season. I'm not saying your expectation should not be postseason in Omaha, but how you get there should not matter. Like if you look at the SEC, I mean, there's been teams win the national championship out of the SEC. I want to say one of the Vanderbilt teams that won it finished like seventh in the SEC or sixth in the SEC, and they won the national championship. So I think it's important for Texas fans to have tempered expectations for the regular season, because there could be many years, like honestly, a lot of years where you might have 16 wins and barely be over 500, and you might still host a regional because that league is going to be so good. So it's going to be different. I mean, they're not going to finish, 8 or 9 games over 500 in conference anymore, but it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to prepare them for the postseason, and we just got to keep our guys out in left field out of trouble when Ole Miss and LSU roll into town.
They're a hospitable crowd, but like you mentioned,
Of
Ole Miss
course,
Team 64 wins a national title, and
yeah,
Florida,
exact, great example.
who couldn't win a midweek game this year, makes it to Omaha. So
Yeah, one of the
well,
last 5 in. Yep, got to Omaha and almost played for the national championship.
it's going to be a lot of fun. Kendall, thank you so much. Make sure you head to
You
D1Baseball.com.
got it, buddy.
It is time for a portal season, some coaching carousel now, and that's the
I
place
need
to
a
check
break.
it
I
out.
need a break. Somebody help me out here.
You sleep in July. Make sure you head to
You got it,
Inside
buddy.
Texas as well. InsideTexas.com. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, subscribe to D1Baseball's channel. And Kendall, appreciate it as always. See you in
Thanks,
fall
Joe.
ball,
We'll see you soon,
hopefully.
bud. Yes, sir. We'll see you soon.